Vicky, she always supports me.
Oregon Community Access. Community is our middle name.
I know, right?
All right. We're ready, Candy. Dan, ready? All right. Folks, we're ready. It's 5 o'clock. So I'm going to call the Village Board of Oregon meeting to order for Monday, December 19th, 2022. Candy, if we could have roll call.
Fashion.
Here.
Bilo.
Here.
Glish.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Van Campen.
He just stepped out.
Oh.
There he is.
Van
Phil,
Campen.
Phil, say aye.
Wunsch.
Here.
And Jenna Jacobson is absent this evening.
Okay. All right, let's go let's take number 3, and then Lauren has an announcement for us. So let's go 3. Let's approval of December 5th, 2022 Village Board meeting minutes. I see Mike's and Amanda. Any discussion by anybody? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Disapprove? No, there's none. Okay. All right, so Lauren has got just a quick little announcement. So Lauren, take it away.
Hi, yeah, for those residents that are watching tonight, either in person or online, I'm speaking on behalf of the water utility right now. So we did send out a brochure to every resident property owner in the village last week. It's just educating all residents about our cross-connection control program and giving them tips on how to identify cross connections in their houses, how to get rid of them, why that's very important, all of that information. It was brought to our attention that many residents received just an empty envelope with a return address from the Village of Oregon and their address, but nothing inside it. That is associated with this mailing, so obviously that was a mailing error. We have now posted the brochure online if folks are interested and would like to go and see what was supposed to be mailed. We're also going to be speaking with the company that did the mailing and seeing how we can remedy this and get folks the information that they need. So.
All right, Lauren, thank you. All right, let's go to 4, which is public appearances, comments, communications. 4A is presentation by Vanderwall and Associates on the comprehensive plan and parks and recreation plan. So, who's got this one? Who?
I'll get it started and then hand it over to Ben. So, as you all know, we are getting rolling starting in January here to update our 10-year comp plan and our 5-year parks plan. And at your last meeting, we chose kind of a standard option for both plans, and then Vanwell provided us with the scope and then a little bit of a schedule. We haven't built out exact dates, but just wanted to have Ben Rohr here from Vanwell walk you through that a little bit, just so we understand what's covered in that, number of workshops and focus groups and things like that, and give you all a chance to ask any questions. And then assuming we still have the green light, we'll continue to move forward in January, kind of build out more of a specific schedule so we can all save those dates for public workshops and focus groups and things like that. So I'll hand it over to you, Ben. Thanks.
Thank you, Elise. Like you said, my name is Ben Rohr with Van Wall & Associates. I've been a part of a lot of different efforts with partnering with the Village of Oregon over the years, and played a role in replacing or trying to replace Mike Slavny over the past year. And so we're excited to take on this opportunity to update both the comprehensive plan and park and recreation plan in 2023. Based on the direction that was provided to us by this body and the Plan Commission I believe the Parks Committee also related to that standard option. We built out a lot more details to define what we mean by that in terms of a scope and associated hours and budget. So each of those have been provided to you in your packet. We do realize that there is going to be some efficiencies with this process, and we believe that that will help streamline both of these processes, not only to end result have two documents that work seamlessly together with one another in terms of vision, goals, recommendations, those types of things, but also to provide efficiencies budgetary-wise and otherwise in utilizing the input that we receive from both of these planning processes to help inform one another by doing those at the same time, doing data collection, existing inventory, those types of things simultaneously, and then also taking advantage of opportunities before different groups like yourselves, the Plan Commission, the Parks Committee, any other bodies, village staff meetings, in doing both processes at the same time. And so those efficiencies were built into these the scopes that you have before you. And the end result is the similar price that was indicated in terms of those two approaches that were previously discussed and given direction to based on those previous discussions. So a brief overview of what we're looking at through the comprehensive plan process, and then I'll walk through briefly on the park plan process, and then we'll have opportunity for any questions. But basically, both processes are what we would consider our standard process. So these are fairly typical in terms of the order of operations in which we would pursue both of these plans. Both start with significant public input to help guide the process, to inform the development of the plan itself, and then a variety of review meetings, opportunities to refine the document, and then public input on the back end before we seek adoption in both processes. So for the comp plan, that would include a kickoff meeting before this group and the Plan Commission, 4 different focus group interviews, listening sessions. So these would be defined groups related to specific topic areas. And so we'll refine and discuss this with staff and get those together. But those interview listening sessions would also occur the same day as the park plan, so we can dovetail in terms of hopefully some stakeholders that would make it most efficient for them to participate and for us to gather as much input as possible. So we're planning to have those focus group listening sessions on the same day and have 4 related to comp plan topics, 4 related to park plan topics, but we all know that they're going to intertwine with one another in terms of informing both of those plans. Then as part of the comprehensive plan, we propose 1 public workshop. This would be kind of a visionary type workshop that'd be interactive, opportunities for people to participate in a variety of formats. This could occur on a weeknight. It could occur on a weekend, but that schedule, like Elise talked about, is yet to be determined, and so we'll work on that. But right now we have 1 defined public workshop as part of that process. Then we'd review the document through a couple of different Plan Commission meetings, refine that, bring it back to the village board, and have another discussion as to kind of presenting, here is the document, it's been vetted by the Plan Commission, by the public, here is what we have. Then we would take it to what we call a public open house, which is an opportunity for the public again to participate in reviewing the document, asking questions about it. There'd be an online in-person option to gather feedback, so there'd be a dedicated event, and then there'd also be the online opportunity to provide comments. We want to do this in tandem with the park plan, so get the park plan to the same point in time, so it's at the final draft stage with the comprehensive plan, makes for efficiencies. Hopefully we get better turnout too, with more people interested in the general topic areas we're discussing, and then we make any revisions and seek adoption, and that adoption meeting we have targeted to be also simultaneous with the park plan too. So you can see as I've kind of walked through it, there's opportunities for public input throughout the processes, and we're working to streamline both so they're kind of on the same track in terms of when we're hitting different milestones within the project itself. Specific to the park plan, obviously I mentioned the focus group interviews. We would do a standalone online survey as part of that as it's proposed right now. That would be generally more specifically geared towards park and recreation, outdoor opportunities, natural resource preservation. But we know all of those topics, again, flow into the comprehensive plan. So we think that that survey will provide opportunities to help inform the comprehensive plan. Vice versa with the public workshop for the comp plan, we think that'll help inform the park plan as well. So the main group or body that will be reviewing the park plan and refining that is the Parks Committee. But then we will come back before the Plan Commission and Village Board for adoption following that public open house that will occur simultaneously with the comprehensive plan. So I know that's a lot to throw at you, but I tried to boil down what is kind of a 5-page document into really hitting the highlights here. So if there is specific questions about any particular task or component of the project, I'd be happy to answer those. In addition to, we did provide some optional components for other tasks that you could select, and those are, again, optional. They haven't been built into specifically what is listed as kind of the overall budget as it stands right now, but we can refine and tweak that in any way to add any of those optional tasks or to add any additional meetings or anything like that that you are looking or seeking to have as part of the process. Thank you.
All right, questions for, or at least do you want to say it's something, and then we'll open it up for the board, or?
No.
All right, let's go to the board. So Amanda's hand, and then Carlene.
Yeah, I'm curious, do we have like an estimate of what, like, the optional task for the parks would be, the optional park and trail map I'm seeing on
Yeah.
here? I mean, that's a nice feature, especially if we can show how our trails connect to other municipalities and things like that. Do we have an estimate of what
Yeah.
that would add?
Yeah, so this is a component that we're seeing a lot of communities be interested in, and it functions really well to do as part of this process because we're gathering all that information anyway. We're putting it into a plan. It's really easy to put that data directly into an interactive map. And so the estimated cost for that is $4,000, and that's listed in the budget for the park plan. This is a component that does not necessarily have to be a part of the process. So at the end, if you're like, well, we really kind of want this, then that could be a standalone thing that we do at any time. I think you guys might be aware that we help update the village's zoning map, and we do that in an interactive to help put it on the DCI Dane County map. So that's another thing that we offer in terms of services at any point in time, so it doesn't necessarily have to be part of this.
Amanda, one point, this was actually brought up at the park board meeting last week too, just some questions about the interactive map. Our chamber director Tanner is actually working on building an interactive kind of visitors map about, here's businesses, here's a link to their website, here's hours, everything too. And we talked about maybe there's opportunity rather than having various siloed maps, but having one kind of all about Oregon map. So like Ben mentioned, this is something we could always add on later too if Tanner finds that he doesn't have the capacity to do that in-house, or we think it would be useful to have in a different format or separate. So we can certainly look at, I think a lot of that information will be useful. It's just a matter of figuring out what format and kind of what's the manpower.
And obviously we would share any data that we have in terms of geographical data if that was the case that the village was going to take that effort on themselves. Yeah.
All right, Carlene, you're up.
So mine was a mapping kind of question as well, and it had to, because we have so many water issues in our village, and just thinking about where things would go and what, mapping out things as far as when we think about future development and those kinds of the issues that we've clearly experienced when it comes to having water where we don't want it. Wondering if that is a component of this as you're thinking about it. Just a question.
Yeah, as the start of any comprehensive plan update, what we do is gather a whole bunch of natural resource information and data to update that map as a starting point in the process. And that map helps us inform what the later end result of the future land use map looks like, and in particular the consideration of when we're thinking about where future growth may occur in the future and how that looks like and what kind of format that looks like, we want to take into consideration those limitations, constraints, natural resource preservation, those types of components. So all of that data is gathered as part of this process, and it helps inform the end or the outcomes of the process. But I know in particular, for every community, there's certain aspects of a comprehensive plan, because it is overarching, it is covering a lot of ground, and it covers a lot of topics, that those are the types of things that we would discuss in more detail, in particular like the kickoff meeting, where you give us that certain direction as to where we want to really focus our attention, whether it's directly related to stormwater, whether it's directly related to another sustainability component, housing, economic development, whatever that particular topic area that you want us to really hone in on and focus. Those are the things that we have the opportunity to do through this process, given the direction that we seek from the elected officials, from the public, all those types of things.
Carlene, I'm going to jump in here really quick, just as a side note. So I think what you're talking about sounds a lot like a stormwater management plan, or an intersection between the comprehensive plan and what engineers at least would call a stormwater management plan. And that involves a lot of water flow modeling and a lot of engineering work. We do have that budgeted for next year in the Public Works Department, and that's certainly something that we would work with Vandewall, with Elise, on making sure that that data as modeling comes out is shared with them, and that we're talking about things, because
Yeah. And
that does
just know
happen.
that it's one of those things that keeps
Yeah.
coming up as we think about where and what, where to put things and what kinds of things are appropriate. And I feel like a lot of times village residents don't know those things up front, and so there's a lot of questions and a lot of, having to re-educate. And if we have all that out there in public to begin with, I think it just simplifies it.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Mike?
Yeah, in addition to stormwater management, we have a couple other initiatives in flight. One is an affordable housing initiative that's changing some of the zoning, or looking at changing some of how we zone things. Another is a bicycle and transportation study that's occurring next year, and mid-next year, the Sustainability Committee is going to come in and present a report to the board. How do you capture all of that in-flight activity and incorporate it as part of the comprehensive plan, since I would think we want them all?
Yeah, well,
One cohesive view.
we certainly want to do that, and that's what makes it the title of comprehensive plan, right? It is overarching, and it does include a lot of those different components and elements. So we start with kind of updating where we stand in terms of plans that have been completed, and then we work extensively with village staff to identify where there's ongoing projects, just like the one that was mentioned. I was unaware of that study, but that's a perfect way for us to work together to incorporate that type of information. What we do with those focus group interviews in particular at the forefront of the process is get stakeholders from those types of committees and those types of groups to come together and help us in terms of providing information that we can capture, and we can dovetail the initiatives that they're working on into the plan through that process. In addition to opportunities where we come before different bodies and groups and committees throughout the process to kind of highlight what we've put together. And then that's another opportunity for other groups to say, well, you may have missed this. We're working on this over here. All right, well, that's the time as we're working through refinements of the document to influence the document with what's ongoing and what may have changed in a couple of months since the last time we talked to them. So it's an iterative process, and that's truly why it does take a little bit of time. It takes a year to really flesh out a comprehensive plan, because we want to get it right, and we want to incorporate all of those different elements of what's ongoing and what's been done into the plan to truly make it kind of the clearinghouse for this is what we've got in the village as it stands, at that adoption date. So we'll lean on village staff a little bit for that in terms of helping us to understand what's all ongoing, but we'll use the public input and the committee meetings in particular to help influence that as well.
Okay.
Thank you. One of the options in here was exploring strategic growth through compact development, diversified housing. I don't know that we have to do that, but it certainly seems the direction that the village is starting to move with affordable housing and our sustainability, so I don't know where that goes. Lastly, for the park plan, it may make sense to have a focus group directly on the Keller Alpine area, given all the interest from the community about that. I don't know if that's the best choice or not, but I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be step one, working with staff to identify those groups, identify those invites, and get a date set and work from there. But overall, what our goal will be is to do a lot of this public input, the upfront components of it, January through March of 2023, and then get into the drafting and refining into the summer, and then kind of the back end stuff towards the fall, and seek adoption around this time next year.
Okay, Mike, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else? All right, Ben, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to 4B is, what? Oh, we want to approve, I guess. Okay, we wanted a motion, sorry. I just thought we were going forward. All right, who said first? Phil, okay, and then Amanda. All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Now, 4B, public comment. This part of the agenda allows members of the public to provide information to the village board, including items both on and off the agenda. Anybody need to speak to us tonight? Okay, not seeing none? Okay. All right, let's go to 5. Approval of vouchers in the amount of $933,640.16. If I can get a motion in a second, we'll get her on the table. Carlene and Derek. All right. Who's got something tonight? Amanda's got something.
Yeah. Just a curiosity thing, number 10953. That's a Praxis Consulting. It's the Police Department Quick Clerks Parking Program.
Yeah. So we have to have a parking program to, so if people don't pay their parking citations, we work through DOT to suspend their plates.
Oh, okay,
So it's
that's
a
what
whole
that
software
is.
that we have to have
Okay.
maintained.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Mike, you got one? Nobody? Anybody else? All right, Amanda was the only one tonight, okay. All right, Candy, we'll take a voice vote.
Beshin,
Yes?
Peterson,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Wunsch,
Yes.
Van Campen,
Yes.
and Belo.
Yes.
Okay. We're on to 6, which is the consent agenda, and we have A through H to approve. If we can get a motion in a second, we'll take care of that consent agenda. Amanda, second. Carlene? Okay.
Can we peel 6A out of there?
No, Mike. You're ruining it for me. So you want A off
Yeah, I just want a couple questions on it.
on A?
You can keep it in and still ask the question.
Oh,
All right. All
did we
right.
use all of our money this year in the tree program?
I think Lisa told me we did.
Did we? Okay. Excellent. That's it.
I'll have a little announcement based on that too in a little bit here. All right. Any other discussion? All right, we got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, reports of committees. Items are for discussion and possible action. 7A is Ad hoc Sustainability Committee. I is request authorize $1,500 for survey, printing, and community outreach. Mike, you want to take it, or?
Yeah, so the
Okay.
Sustainability Committee is at the point where we're assembling a draft report. We would like to get feedback from the committee on that report and some of the main items in it. We're looking to do that survey come February, after the transportation survey has completed, so we're not stomping on each other's toes. Because the money was budgeted this year, we're just asking for authorization for those funds now so that we can use them when we need them.
Okay. So Mike, we'll get to see the survey before you.
No, no way.
No, you won't? Oh, you're trying to get back at me now.
Yeah,
You
no,
will.
no, yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
just want
you
to
can see it.
get the money on the books, right?
Yeah.
Accounted for.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll bring the survey in before.
Sure. Okay. All right. Might want to make a motion in a second? I think you want approval for that, right?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, and Carleen, second. Any other discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 7B is the Ad hoc Public Art Committee. I would ask, Michelle Marks is going to be here represent the Public Art Committee, and she's not here yet. We knew she was going to be a little late, so if it's okay with everybody, we'll when she gets here, we'll bring this up. We also have actually somebody that came all the way from Eau Claire to talk with us too about this, just information. So I'd like to have both of them here. So as soon as Michelle gets here, we'll take that one. We can go to 7C is Ad hoc Public Transportation Committee, and Amanda's got
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, this will be pretty quick. I talked with the chair, Ray Vogler, of the committee about this. We are having trouble filling seats on our committee. And we have an applicant from the town of Oregon that we might want to consider, but we're still trying really hard to get people from the village. So we feel it's maybe a little premature to discuss at this meeting, but you might see it come up next month. We could maybe table it or something to have that discussion. Just because we're struggling and we really need the hands to do the work. So that's why it was in here, but we'd like to just postpone it a little longer.
And can I just ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, even though it's a village committee, you're talking about transportation for a broader area, hence it's having somebody from the town would make sense.
It would make sense for this committee. I could see that, yes, because, we've had Carl Walzer from one of the town supervisors come to our last meeting, and he's gotten some interest from people in the town of Oregon who would like to see something, so it might make sense for this committee without setting a precedent for all the committees, We can have that discussion. We just want to kick it down the road just a little bit longer. We're going to try really hard to get village members on the committee, and if we can't, though, you'll see this again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Candy says we don't need a motion,
Okay.
so we can just agree to
Yep, sounds
just
good.
table it for now. So, okay. All right, 7D is Oregon Area Fire EMS District Commission minutes. They were in our packet. This is information only. E is Public Safety Committee. E1 is ordinance number 22-20, an ordinance amending Chapter 9 of the Village of Oregon Code of Ordinances relating to the hosting of gatherings involving underage possession and consumption of alcohol. The committee is recommending approval. Martin, I don't know, does somebody want to, do we need to speak to this, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple one. The village had adopted an ordinance a few years back regarding social host, and now the state has preempted that, and so this is just simply repealing what we had previously and making it consistent with state law.
Okay. All right. So we're looking for a motion and a second. Phil?
Approve.
Okay. And Derek, any other discussion on this? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, moving along. 8 is unfinished business. Items are for discussion, possible action. 8A is adoption of the employee compensation program policy. Staff recommendation is to motion to approve as presented, and I think Martin's going to say a few things.
Yeah, I think this one's fairly simple as well. This is kind of the last step of our compensation study, is putting together the actual written policy that we'll follow. It kind of codifies sort of the process that we went through this year, which is how our salary is going to be set, going through the job evaluation process, administrative review, village board review, how we'll administer our salaries going forward and our salary schedules, and some of the different elements of that. So there's nothing too restrictive in this policy. It's pretty permissive for the village board, so it leaves a lot of flexibility for the board to make decisions in the future on how best to compensate the employees.
All right, should we get it on the table and then we can discuss? Mike, was that a motion? Okay, and Amanda? Okay, it's on the table. Anybody questions for Martin on this? It's in our packet. Seeing none? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 8B is review bids for J.C. Park Concession Building, potentially award contract to Bauer and Rather Builders in the amount of $698,910. Staff recommendation is to move. Anything? Lauren, you want to say?
Not much that isn't in the memo. Like you guys know, that did come in quite high when it was bid earlier, and so we essentially went back to the drawing board a little bit, simplified some elements, took out that second story, rebid it, and came back with some bids that were a lot more palatable. So the low bid is just under about $700,000, which is in line with more what folks were planning to spend on it. I know Jeff is very happy with the bid as well as with the designs. Going ahead and approving this now will really keep this project moving forward on the schedule. That was a concern, was that the more we pushed it off, the more that this kind of got pushed towards phase 2. So this will allow building construction to happen in 23 and keep things moving along on that front.
Okay. Should we get this one on the table? Motion and a second. Amanda, is that a motion? And Carleen? Okay, discussion, questions? Anybody? Seen any?
Actually,
Okay.
I do have a
You have one?
question.
Okay, go ahead.
So you took the second floor off, but is it going to be built with the option that a second floor could be added later if that was something that was desired?
No, that's an excellent question. I would have to check with Jeff as to whether it's structurally built such that an addition could be placed on it. So I can get back to you on that one, Carleen.
Not a big deal, just curious.
That's a really good question.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, we got a motion and a second on the table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 8C, review draft 249-267 North Main Street request for proposals. Elise, this looks like yours.
This is mine. I will take this. So, after our meeting back in November, I have proceeded with putting together a draft. I'll emphasize the word draft here for our RFP. We have released our property appraiser to go ahead and do that work, so I expect that information to be back probably mid-January. I think he was out on the site, not last weekend, but the weekend before, so you may have seen him out there walking around and taking some photos. So there's kind of a placeholder in that for here. Have some really basic information. Actually, a lot of this was carried over from the Van Wall Public Workshop that was done in July. So just information about the site, history of the site, just kind of a condensed version, some of the maps, existing conditions, information on zoning, utilities, all things we've seen before. This is the existing conditions map with some of the trees and topography noted. And then here's the placeholder for appraisal information, so we'll input that when we have it. The project goals here, these are kind of copied verbatim from the memo that Martin and I had in our November memo. So kind of identifying some of the goals that were gleaned from the public workshop and survey and some of the other plans that have existed in the community. So dedicating a portion of the site as public park for passive recreation, preserving healthy mature trees, identifying the tree study and allowing public access to these trees to the extent practical, Obviously, meeting stormwater requirements and addressing existing issues. This would be kind of assumed with any use here. Ensure that any proposed project is consistent with uses, scale, design, and character of the neighborhood. For proposals including housing, prioritize low to moderate density development, as well as senior affordable housing options. And then again, consideration for allowing the village to recoup its investment on the property, either through the sale price of the property, or if there's a TIF ask, looking for options that allow us to retain a portion of that increment for debt service and other public projects in that TIF district. This next couple of slides were taken, kind of the template was taken from an example from the city of Verona for a redevelopment that they're doing right now on Verona Avenue. So that was put out, I think, 2019, 2020. So I have changed some of the language to see in a proposal from, you know, the nonprofit or developer or community organization that would be submitting an RFP. So a summary, an approach, this includes team kind of biographies explaining your experience with projects like this or development, kind of explaining who your point people are, who's your folks on your team, other examples, if any, from other projects the team has been involved in, explaining your organization, and then investment, financial viability, the work, kind of the project itself that's proposed, and a timeline for that, and then just explaining that all submittals are submitted electronically. 2023 would be the year. Thank you, Mike, for catching that. This is just thrown out here. I think by the time we get appraisal information back mid-January, might be able to get kind of a final draft to you all late January or early February. So I want to make sure we have enough time. The state can certainly shift, but at least have maybe 6 to 8 weeks of this out on the street so that people can put information together and then get us back something that's meaningful and complete. I think the next few slides are definitely where we can have some discussion, and we can start that tonight and pick up later too after the holidays. But the selection criteria, the Verona example had a table similar to this, and I kind of rearranged and reworded some of these criteria based on our goals. But this would be one option we could use to kind of have a scoring system for these proposals, and they're meant to be broad enough to capture various kinds of uses, because we expect to see, you know, a variety of different uses proposed through the RFP. So proposal is creative in its uses and activates the street and public spaces, including preservation and access to historic trees. So they would get a score, you know, out of 20 for this particular category. Incorporates public spaces, maximizes connections to existing neighborhoods in downtown. Proposal provides financial benefits for the village. The residential option, again, we could kind of decide how we wanted to word that, knowing that all projects may not include residential options, having environmentally sustainable design, that the organization or partnership has diverse resources, that we feel confident that they will actually be able to carry the project through. They have a successful track record. Investment level, again, proof of financial viability, kind of their credentials. Some of these things could be combined as well. And then, you know, that each of the proposals complete and answers kind of all the questions that we were looking for. And then the selection process itself, Martin and I talked about various different ways this could be set up, and thought we would just kind of throw this out to you all. You know, we would have a process where, similar to with how we do bids, there's a certain date if you want to have, if you have questions, that we would answer those and share those answers in a way that they would be available to everybody at the same date. And those responses would be posted on a website. Tours could be arranged. Again, we'd have a due date for the final proposal. And then we can discuss kind of how we want to see this done. But proposals could be reviewed by the village board as a whole. They could be reviewed in closed session because it is you know, property negotiation. And it could be a dedicated meeting work session just for that. We could also look at putting together an ad hoc committee of board member or two, someone from planning commission, maybe park board member, some staff, other, members of the public, chamber director, to kind of go through the proposals, at least initially, maybe do some initial sorting and scoring, and then provide a recommendation to the board. So we can talk about what your preference would be. I think we just want to make sure that if we are going to go through the work of putting together an ad hoc committee, that time and recommendation that would be put forward would be, I guess respected by the board. And so we're not going to kind of go through all of that twice, and we just want to make sure we're respectful of people's time and resources. And then have here that we would hope to enter into some kind of probably development agreement or other type of agreement with a successful project team or teams within 6 months of the village board's final acceptance of a proposal. So I think that is the last slide. I'm happy to open the conversation for suggestions or any questions.
So
you all
Elise,
have.
just kind of review and discussion tonight?
Yep.
No, okay. All right. Yeah, Carly, go ahead.
So I hear you say in your words when you're talking about it, team or teams, and what's the word? I interpret that to mean that it could, it could be that more than one party decides to use parts of it, but I don't see that in writing. So
Yeah,
I
we
just
can-
wonder if there's a way to put that.
Mhm.
Because we've talked a lot about that possibility, but I don't see how it's implied in here. in
Yeah, I
writing.
think that would probably be, we could also kind of create more of a application or form, so it's more clearly spelled out. The way that this is written right now, it's kind of just giving folks, this is the requirements, but you can put this in any format. I would expect that kind of in the scope of work section, people would explain, we're interested in using 1.7 acres for, a townhome development. This is our, concept site plan or whatever. And they would explain, that we wouldn't be interested in purchasing or using the full site. Also in the approach section, I think they would probably explain to, one option we kind of talked about in the past is if we have organizations that might be submitting a proposal together, that there'd be an opportunity for them to explain it's, this organization and this developer kind of a partnership working together, we're submitting one proposal. So that section I think would be where they would explain this is our
Yeah,
team
I'm not
team.
thinking that they wouldn't do it. I just wonder if for people who have not been listening to this conversation among us, if they would understand that they're not required to use all of the space.
Yeah, we
And
could certainly.
That's the only thing, if I'm reading this and I don't have all that context, how might I know that?
Yeah, I think we could probably add a line here, in the scope to just say, please explain, provide a concept plan and explain your, proposed usage of the site, including acreage or something like that. We can certainly add a sentence to capture.
Or something like, projects are not required to use all of the
Yeah.
property or something like that, so they know, and they want, so, I don't know how you do that. But
Yeah.
I just know when I'm reading it, I
Get
wouldn't
that,
know if I
yeah.
didn't have all that context coming with me.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
we can maybe also add to in, whether it's in project goals too, that, the village is open to considering a variety of,
Yeah,
uses and, applicants or proposals do not need to, could involve some or all of the site, something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
thank you,
I'll play around with
All
where's
right.
the best spot to park that language.
thank you.
Phil, I saw your hand go up.
Well, just to mention, pardon me, to Carlene's point, on the project goals, page 112 of your packet. The first item is dedicate a portion of the site as a public park. I think that Carlene's point has merit. And because it's such a small parcel, I wonder if someone is going to feel reading that, I'm gonna have to pay for all 2.7 acres and then dedicate part of it is a park. And that certainly doesn't fit any of our parameters for how much parkland a developer might have to. So I think again, to Carlene's point, I think probably need to nail down that somehow.
Okay.
So, but I think you covered it. I'm just concerned that someone reading this would read it and go, I'm gonna have to dedicate 1 acre of a 2.5 acre site I buy, and that's
Yeah.
not a good deal for anybody. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
You know, perhaps since we have stated that goal and we're keeping it, you know, if we decide to keep it fairly open, in terms of requirements for what that park space looks like, we could have that in the requirements. You know, in the scope of work, please explain how you will incorporate public park space into your project.
All right.
Make sure that's
Mike?
included.
Yeah, I like your selection criteria quite a bit, actually. I think that whole chart is really useful in terms of how we decide this. Regarding project goals, I'm concerned that the goals are a little nebulous. Like I could see dedicate a portion of the site to a public park. I could see that being something I would really support or something I would really not support based on how big of a space that was and where it was located. To my mind, you know, the village survey to me showed more than anything that the community's divided and we should honor that division and as you so aptly put it, make sure everyone's a little unhappy with the result. So my suggestion would be that bullet 1 becomes something like dedicate a minimum of 1 acre of the site as a public park for passive recreation. And that bullet point 2 become preserve the healthy mature trees identified in the village's previous tree study and include the trees in the park to the extent practical. That to me would mean that any proposal that, you know, response to this RFP that came back, I would give serious consideration to. Whereas I really don't want to waste the time of developers by not clarifying upfront what I'm looking for, so.
Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, Derek and then Amanda.
Yeah, I very much appreciate the goals that you set in there as well, in the selection process. And something that isn't written here, but you just happened to mention during your comments about doing, really, I would caution doing any of this in closed session, just given the amount of public interest that's been, you know, involved in it. I think this process should probably be, even though we are talking about a real estate transaction ultimately, I think this process should probably be entirely within the public view, because I think otherwise people are really going to have questions once the final selections are made.
Okay. Amanda?
Yeah. I like this too. I'm intrigued by Mike's comments about specifying that we're talking about a good chunk of it. I don't know that 1 acre, I don't know that we need to put that in there, but I think we could say, like, you know, just that we're open to creative ideas. Like if the developer is looking at all this land, they wouldn't have to provide part of the park, like what Phil was saying, as part of their proposal. They could just say, well, I want to put housing on this part, and the other part could be used for a park of the board's choosing, you know, and then we could look at separate proposals for just a park and proposals for just housing. And like, I don't know how you'd say this, but I kind of agree with what's been said, basically.
Yeah.
We need to make that a little clearer.
Yeah. Couple of thoughts on the green space and park space. So, obviously right now there's the 3 parcels and parcel lines are fairly arbitrary. We do CSMs all the time, so those can be redrawn and rearranged. There's not a whole lot of rhyme and reason to that, other than we can't create a parcel that's landlocked that doesn't have access to a public street. With any development, so say we decide, you know, or a developer says, yeah, I'm not going to use this portion of the site, we're going to make that the public park, still on their development, you know, their parcel likely that would be combined from whatever is remaining. They would still have their own green space requirements for, if it is a kind of a built development, they'd still have their green space requirements based on whatever zoning district this ends up being in, you know, that 50% of the site or whatever needs to be green space. So that would be kind of in addition to whatever is left as public park, whether it's owned by a village or whoever. I can definitely appreciate what Mike's saying in regards to trying to reflect the feedback we got from the community about wanting green space. I guess my initial thought would be to not necessarily put a number on it because I don't want to limit the possibilities of proposals that could be really creative uses of green space that are open to the public but maybe more kind of woven throughout the site versus being configured in a way that just kind of splitting the parcel down the middle. But I think there's a lot of different ways we can look at wording this in the goals, and also we have kind of this scoring criteria, if you guys like going with that, where we can, again, prioritize projects that are looking to preserve the trees and provide public access. And there's probably a lot of options that we haven't considered before that would hate to kind of take off the table before we've even seen what that looks like if that doesn't exactly fit into the criteria for a developer. But it could be, again, things would score higher based on more space is given for green space or more access to the trees is provided. So I think just knowing that this could, we have a lot of folks that are interested and have been asking about this. I think we'll get a good response for the proposals. Just trying to allow, I guess, maximum flexibility for people to creatively meet our goals.
Okay. I had a
Yeah,
couple
follow
more,
up?
sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
unless-
Go ahead.
So that's cool. The selection criteria, I mean, I like the point system. I guess I would just want to make sure that, like if we use the selection criteria, do we have to automatically choose the proposal with the highest number of points? I mean, do we have some leeway, because things can sound good on paper, but there's always that other, like do we have flexibility, like giving them this outline with these points, are we obligated then to go by that point system?
I don't think so. The points below that are really small here, I carried over from the Verona plan. I was just reading the last one here, which is the Village of Oregon reserves the right to reject any or all offers or discontinue this RFP process without obligation or liability to any developer, award a contract, a more than one contract, etc. So we could add some language there too that just says, the scoring system will be used as a starting point for review, but the village is not obligated to, act for final decisions solely on the scoring system.
And then
Good
I
point,
was
though.
just going to comment on the ad hoc committee idea. Although I see the benefit, for time-wise, for size of our packets and things like that, I was under the impression, I just thought that the village board would see these and that we would be sort of doing those evaluations. I don't know, I think, I would want to see those and be part of that decision personally. I'd rather that we do it instead of an ad hoc committee, but that's just me.
Yeah,
Just
Bill.
to clarify on your comments, Amanda, the planning commission would also see it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's all I got.
Okay, yeah, Derek?
I'll just echo Amanda's last comment there as far as the ad hoc committee too. This process has been in the public and should remain there, and I think adding an extra committee doesn't necessarily add a whole lot. I mean, I see the value in it normally, yeah, but just given the amount of input that we've already gotten on this, I think this should really fall to the village board in the end.
Okay, yeah, Mike?
Yeah, I guess I'm okay not putting a firm, it's got to be an acre or spot of land. But I think we need to have some way to emphasize in here that, there's got to be some balance between green space and development to meet what our community wants. And as long as that's in there, I'm more than willing to be, creative and, or open to creativity on how it's done.
Yeah, I think the way that, that I just took this first whack at the selection criteria, but putting those top two goals there and having those have the most weight. Again, these numbers are kind of arbitrary, so those can move around too, but hopefully that would have those projects that really emphasize green space and access and connection really help rise to the top. one thing I was thinking, if we do, kind of present everything at a board meeting, would maybe start similar to we do our bid towns. I don't know if any of you have been there when we've been opening bids, but list out all of the proposals and kind of provide some background information and maybe start a spreadsheet form where you all have something you can write on and you can fill in as we're going through each one, but not scoring it as we go, but at least providing, this is the project team, this is generally what they've proposed, this is, the asking price, et cetera. So we at least have, some of those details down on paper we can pull up on the screen, et cetera. So makes the process of reviewing all of those, and a lot of it might depend on how many proposals we get back. We can figure out which meeting, or if it needs to be a separate meeting, what makes most sense to kind of go through those efficiently, and in a way that's easy for the public to help go through as well.
Carlene, you have a comment?
I just have a question. I've been part of grading grants and things like that use rubrics, and this is certainly different than that. And of course, when I was teaching, I used rubrics all the time. And whenever we had something that had multiple people looking at the same thing, we always did them on our own first, so that we came to the meeting with our rationale behind the scores that we had given, and didn't do them, and it didn't have that as part of. We didn't come with a blank slate, in other words, and then gave our rationale, and I think that whole conversation is a really important piece because it brings everybody's various perspectives, and the things that various ones of us prioritize definitely would come out in those kind of conversations.
Yeah, so maybe some kind of matrix we can make sure that's included in the packet along with all the proposals, so there's at least 5 days to go through them, and then we can hopefully have a more productive conversation once we pick it up to review.
This is a really nice job, Elise.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Elise, you think you have enough?
I think so, yeah.
think
And
you
then
do.
again, once we have the appraisal information, I want to make sure that's in there. We've all taken a look at that before we actually get this out on the street, and then we can kind of fine tune the due dates and things like that as well.
Okay.
So, until January, probably.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to 8D, which is the village public information policies and procedures. Who's taking that one, Martin? Carlene, we waited for you on this one.
I know, because I wanted to be part of the conversation, but not that I wanted to present.
No, I'm not. No, I wasn't asking you. I was paying you a compliment that we waited for you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Martin, who wants to start on this one?
Well, I guess we're looking for feedback on if we want to proceed or how we want to proceed. I guess at the last time that we talked about this, the board agreed to discuss how we would best respond to some of these critical incidents that have occurred, and whether or not we actually need to have a written policy and procedure for that in place. In the packet, I included the police department's policy on public information, and that might be a good template to use. But other than that, we're just looking for discussion and feedback from the board on it.
All right, Martin, I think I saw some, I don't know, maybe it was a long time ago. We do have a public information, somebody's designated, aren't we? Isn't there? I thought there was in the village. No?
Well, it depends on what you're referring to.
Not from the police department, but
Well, so then, separate from the police
Okay.
department is emergency management.
maybe that's what I was thinking. Okay, all right, all right. All right, double duty for you.
So
All right. All right. All right, discussion? Derek?
Sure, I'll kick us off. So I guess, for a lot of the stuff, I don't necessarily want to overthink this too much. We already kind of decided as the board that we weren't going to put out the DEI statement, which is fine. Going forward, I'd like to see some sort of process when these critical incidents do come up, to get the information out in the public space and probably recorded on the public record where it should be. This might just be easy enough to add to the current police policy and just, a brief portion to say that if something is released via a press release, that it should be brought to the village board at the following meeting or the next meeting that the chief is in attendance. And I guess that would probably be where I would start without, digging too far into this. That way we don't have to kind of reinvent the wheel. We can just add to the wheel that we already have.
If I could ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
So what would be the goal with doing that?
Really just so the public has the information that you provided through the press release.
Okay. So any public statement or, I take that back. Not a press conference, because those are more difficult because it's recorded and through the news channel. But a press release that we have, all of those are already uploaded to our website.
Sure.
Under the icon press releases. So those are accessible to anyone.
Again, just to get the information in one more spot where people might be interested in it.
Yeah, Phil?
I'm leaning towards letting the police department deal with these types of things. They have a very clear policy in place with very clear parameters. And the best thing about it is that it appears to be completely objective. And I think if a village board member wanted to comment on an incident like this, then they certainly could during public comments. But I don't believe this is a place for the village board. If we were to head down this road, I think it would take us several meetings to even write the parameters for when we would comment and when we would not.
Okay, all right, Carleen?
I would like to see some kind of protocol so that when a critical incident happens, and my suggestion would be that the chief, the village administrator, and the village president have some sort of meeting, either a phone call, a conference, or whatever, and then something be sent to village board members, not that we need to go look it up, but something sent specifically to us so that we know what's going on, because we get lots of questions and we can just quash rumors and hearsay and all of that stuff that happens in the ether, and try our best to help the village maintain a professionalism about what's going on, so that there's not all kinds of innuendo. And when we are getting information through social media, that's a problem. So I would like to see some sort of protocol for the chief, the village administrator, and whoever the village president is to have a conversation and to put a statement out to the board members so that we have, this is what's going on, these are the next steps, whatever it is, so that we're informed, because we're getting all kinds of questions.
Yes, so there is a current protocol in place. It's not in writing by any means, but it's unfortunate that Trustee Jacobson's not here. In one situation in particular, she was involved. What the protocol at that point was, is she told this individual that came forward, I'm gonna connect you directly to the chief, and she can address your concerns. When a trustee starts getting involved in that conversation, it may open the village to more litigation, it may interfere with an investigation, and there's all these other rabbit holes we could start going under. What I can tell you with the situation involving Trustee Jacobson, it was a traffic stop involving a person of color. She connected me directly to that individual. We sat down, we talked, and every concern that she had was addressed immediately. When you're talking about social media, it's a whole nother monster to deal with. I know that there has been comments made of, some individuals don't want to come talk to you, chief. I would hope, as a trustee, you would say, look, I know, chief.
This is just to know so that I'm just going to use the example of the three of you put something out, we get a question, I can say, this is what I can tell you. I read it right from the statement, and if you have any other questions, but when we don't have specifically that information, I think that it puts us in the dark and it puts us in a bad spot with the people that we are representing. And I would appreciate having that. I think, this is not something that happens every day. And certainly, I just am very conscious that I would like for the people in the community to feel like we have an idea of what's going on. And I can tell you that the perspective of some folks is that, it is all over the place, how people perceive how critical incidents are happened, whether it's here or Madison or Philadelphia or, Waco, Texas. There's different perceptions, and I would just like us to have be on the up and up, not that we're trying to hide anything, but that people know that they can say, this is what the police and the village administrator and the village president have told the board, and that's what we can share with you. Period.
Is this something that could be solved by, in essence, like an e-notify system for police press releases or something like that? Like, because we can do that through the village. If the public wants to be in the know of what's going on and what the police press releases say, that it just gets automatically sent in an email, just like board packets. I mean, could we do something like that? In that we could all sign up for that as trustees so that we get all the police press releases, and then we know exactly what the police are saying, and we have that information.
I don't have any control or need to notify. It's automatically uploaded to our website, so I don't know what that looks like on Candy's end, but.
Yeah, we can create a distribution for that.
So Carlene, what I'm hearing you say, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I just think that what you're saying is, just so we have the same information that the chief maybe is putting on her website, we have that to squash how these things sometimes rumors
No,
start.
it's not about squashing. It's about making sure that people have the information that's available.
But sometimes
and
it
so
gets
that-
out of control.
Right.
That's where I'm coming from.
And I think the other piece is acknowledging trauma. And trauma causes harm. And, there are a lot of people who live in the area where 2 incidents happened within 48 hours, totally unrelated, but it's traumatic. And, if we go back to those incidents in particular, I think people in the village, particularly people who were in that part of the village, were kind of waiting to hear something. That's certainly the way it was presented to me by multiple people, and they felt there was a gap in information that was coming from the village. And not necessarily from the police department, but from the village. And so when it's the village, I take that to mean the village board. And so then there's all this speculation and rumor and innuendo, and it's not good. That's not good for our community. And so that's the piece that I would like for us to just acknowledge. Trauma is trauma. And, we want people to feel like they have information. I want people to feel like they have information.
All right, Derek?
Yeah, I guess first I'd like to say, Amanda, that's a tremendous idea with the e-notify system. I think that's a wonderful way to kind of cross a lot of these things. And I just want to clarify for Trustee Van Kampen that as part of this, I'm not, and I can't speak for obviously anyone else but myself, I'm not looking for the village board to make a statement or set parameters on when we do or don't make a statement. I just want to get the relevant information out to the public as it does pertain to public safety on some of these critical incidents especially, which is why I think that e-notify system might go a long way to kind of solving this. And again, I'd like to get the information in as many places as possible. So if we can add to the police policy on this, just to at the following board meeting, if nothing else, just read the press release so it's within this body as well. That's really all I'm looking for.
Phil?
I also want to compliment Amanda. I think it's a great idea, and I can't disagree with anything Derek said. I think that that's a workable solution, because the basis of that will be the police report, and at this point, that's as far as I'm willing to go.
Okay. So it sounds, just for clarification, for my, Chief, when you upload your press, we get an email as well to let all of us know, right? That's what we're asking for?
Or the listserv.
The listserv
Anybody signed up.
gets us, or whoever, but for sure us.
Right.
So we get the information, right?
And then put it
Yeah.
in the packet as well, for the next meeting.
I would like to see it put
Okay.
in the packet for the following meeting as well, yes.
All right.
Martin, I already sent
okay
those
with
to
that.
you. Just we had change on your end?
All right.
Yeah. Is that something we can add to e-notify? Does that sound?
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that's
Can add
easy enough.
distribution lists
I mean,
there.
that way members of the public who want it, they'd have to sign up for it, but then those
Mhm.
who want that information can get it.
Yeah, and
Well,
we
and then
can
when
direct
people
them to it,
contact
too.
us, we can send it to them.
Right.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Martin, do you want a motion? Are you okay with discussion? What do you want?
Just, Randy, I got one quick question.
Yeah, yeah.
As far as putting it in the police policy, is that a road that we could go down as well? Because as I appreciate the chief has mentioned, she already kind of does this internally with you. I'd like this for the future as well, so I think that some of these things kind of get lost as things change, so I think it'd be beneficial to have it in the policy too.
All right. Martin, what do you want?
Yeah, let's do, let's do a motion, so we can make sure that we get it all written out.
All right.
So I have, we'll do an e-notify, we'll set up an e-notify for police department press releases. We'll include press releases in the village board packet at the following meeting. And then this process will be written into the policy we have here.
All right. Derek making a motion, and Phil. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, may we, please, our other guest is here. Can we go back to 7B I, which is memorandum of understanding with Eau Claire Sculpture Tour for Sculpture Walk Pilot Program. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so Michelle is the chair of the Public Art Committee, and then I'm also going to ask, Julie Pengallo is the coordinator director of she came all the way from Eau Claire to be with us. She's the director of Eau Claire's Sculpture Tour. So Julie's sort of I've talked about this before. We got a couple grants to do this. We're going back and forth. Do we do it together ourselves? Do we do it with Eau Claire? And I'll let Michelle kind of tell us what I want to say we have a very enthusiastic public art committee. Lots of energy, lots of ideas. So Michelle is the chair. Take it away, Michelle.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for allowing me to speak. As Randy said, my name is Michelle Marks, and I am the chair of the Public Art Committee, and I'm very excited to be a member of that committee. As Randy has mentioned, we've had several meetings, and I feel like we've had great discussion about wanting to bring this art sculpture to Oregon. I also think it would also help promote some business, and I think get this town going. So the first thing that we've talked about this year is obviously we would like to move forward with joining Eau Claire. They've already got a very well-known sculpture program that they've been doing for several years. And so we would like the village to allow us to go through with the memorandum on that. One of the things that we've discussed, at least for the first year, we're hoping to get this going come this spring, is we would start out with 5 sculptures. Start small, get our feet wet, and then, the following year after that, we're thinking 8, and then another 8 the following third year. These would be rotated sculptures. We would go through, again, Eau Claire. They would give us access to their artists that they already have chosen, and then if we have local artists, which we really do want to promote, the local artists could join the sculpture program by going through their application process. We'd be looking at for the art for the sculptures about $3,000 per sculpture, plus insurance fees, and then Eau Claire handles all the arrangements on that. So that would include transportation, and that's why we would really like to start this process. I think it would be a great process for Oregon to jump into.
I'll just say, my name's Julie Pangallo. I've run the program in Eau Claire since 2014. We are going into our 13th season this year, and during COVID, we were just about done. This program in Eau Claire was completely supported financially by local businesses, by sponsorship and donation. That was it. No tax dollars, no city money, anything like that. And in COVID, a lot of our sponsors weren't open, or they were laying people off and couldn't really justify sponsoring a program. And Visit Eau Claire stepped up and said, no, wait a minute, we can't let this go away, because they could tell on their website Sculpture Tour was the #1 thing that they had information requested about. It was the #1 thing that was clicked through when they posted things about it. And basically Visit Eau Claire ended up hiring me, bringing me internally to run the program under their umbrella. So they have a management contract with the Sculpture Tour program, which is a 501c3. It is amazing. Excuse me. It's amazing what it contributes to our economic development, to our downtown revitalization, to education, to active lifestyles. Ours is a walking tour. You would certainly start out that way with it being focused in downtown. To inclusion. We also run a mural program called Color Block, and we're working with our Hispanic and Hmong communities, having cultural murals done this spring. And it just has really done a lot for community pride. And it's really become something not just for our residents, but for tourism. And we have sculptures now in Red Wing, Menominee, and Altoona, in addition to Eau Claire. And I would encourage you to call Red Wing Arts and ask them how they feel about the program. It's a game changer. It's huge. They were blown away. Red Wing is a small town with a lot of family money, a lot of family foundations, and the funders said they had never seen such support for a program. They were ready to write a check for the next year right away. They're going into their 3rd year program and could not be happier with it. So I'm just here to answer questions for you. Eau Claire is trying to show the state tourism department that art is impactful, that you can measure in dollars and cents what it does for your community. So we are willing to work with other communities, and we hope we get to work with you.
And I'll just kind of touch on that really briefly again. We have funds with the grants that we have already gotten that we can go through this program for up to 3 years, and we're hoping, as she had mentioned, that perhaps with local donors, local businesses, that if we can really get this running and going and people get excited. I'm also a member of the 14 South Artists, and again, as they are growing and they're doing more promotion with art, they're excited about this and really want to kind of help promote this and again bring art to Oregon. And not just art. For me, the reason I joined this is because I truly feel like, without being a naysayer, I feel like Oregon needs this business. We need something to get Oregon going and people excited about being in Oregon. I feel like people live here and love the schools, but they do business elsewhere. They go to Madison, they go to Stoughton, they go to Verona. We need something like this, I feel like, to get Oregon moving again.
So just a couple points to clarify. So we mentioned the sculptures. The sculptures would rotate. So basically the sculptures are on loan from the artist. The $3,000 that we would pay Eau Claire, part of that $1,000 goes to the artist. So their sculpture is loaned to us for a year, and then it changes. So if for the 3 years, it'll change every year, which is new art. People come back. There was one other thing I was going to say.
Keeps it fresh.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, and it doesn't just have to be sculpture. I know you're thinking, you know, obviously, one of the things we've talked about, and as she mentioned, murals, you know, canvases on doors, you know, all sorts of art, I think can be utilized and used in this process. It, again, doesn't just have to be an upright sculpture.
So the committee has had a lot of discussion. Julie came up actually previously to talk with us. Unanimously, we decided that because we're just starting out on this and Eau Claire knows what they're doing, that we can learn a lot from them. And the $3,000, they take care of mostly everything for us. And we thought $3,000 was a pretty small amount to sort of get. And the phrase game changer, that's how we feel. We think this could be for the village. Very exciting. We know this is an arts community. We have a lot of artists. We think this is going to could be a game changer for us.
I've talked to many, many people, again, in the art community about this, and they are so excited to hear of the possibilities of this happening.
So I think what the committee is recommending is that we sign the MOU for 3 years with Eau Claire to sort of get this thing started. We have enough money to do that with the grant money, and we're anxious to get started.
We can make it easy for you to get into a program. There's a lot of arms and legs to it, and all of them have hair on them. There's so many details. It's just amazing how much I've learned, and every year I still learn something new in terms of, you know, setbacks or how bronze reacts to salted roads or, you know, whatever. But we can save you some of the mistakes that we made or some of the things we learned the hard way. But we've also, since Visit Eau Claire took over the program, we've grown to be the largest in the country. So we're getting a lot of attention and drawing a lot of artists that normally we maybe wouldn't have access to. They're going, what? Largest in the country? Yeah, we want to be a part of that. And that gives us a pool of artwork that we can rotate with you and Menominee and Altoona and Red Wing. And I mean, Red Wing's a very similar town, a charming little town. You wouldn't think that you could do much to make it better. It's gilding the lily. And they will tell you it's a game changer.
One of the things I just want to point out to the board is, you saw in the packet there is a $4,500 consulting fee, and one of the things that Eau Claire is going to do for us, typically you would pay that every year. They're allowing us to pay it one time, the first time. So there's a $9,000 savings for us in year 2 and 3. So the committee's excited. We hope all of you are excited, and we're ready to go. We just sort of need approval on the MOU. So, questions, Mike?
Yeah, I'm enthused to see that the Arts Committee is partnering with Eau Claire. I first ran into your art in Eau Claire by just being a tourist there and wandering around the downtown and thinking how cool it was to have art all over the downtown. And then I found out a lot more about it a year ago when my wife started or was one of the organizers for the Oregon Sculpture Park and started reaching out to y'all. And the more I found out about your program and how you support other communities, I'm really thrilled to see our Arts Committee partnering with you. I think I'm excited by this. Question, you rotate the art in and out. Is it $3,000 a year for an art piece, or is it
Yes.
$3,000 total for an
Yep.
art? So it's per year, so
Yep.
it's, okay. And then they would be rotated every 2 years?
Nope, they're rotated every year.
Every year,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Julie, how many sculptures does Eau Claire have right now?
Right now, we have 94. We are planning to be at 116 next year.
And if we, by some chance, run into a piece of art that we really, really like,
I want to know about it.
can that be purchased and
Oh,
kept in the-
absolutely.
Yes.
And if
okay.
it is, we take a 25% commission, which Eau Claire splits with Oregon. So it puts money back into your program to help continue to operate.
Okay.
But yeah, and if you have, we do a call to artists, and we can do one specifically in the counties surrounding here. Excuse me. And, you know, if there are artists that you know of, I'd love to talk to them. We're always looking for new artists. A lot of times, an artist will have more than one piece that's available. And because we now have multiple markets that we're working with, we can put it in Red Wing this year, maybe it goes to Eau Claire next year, and Altoona the year after that. An artist can make $5,000 without even selling their piece. But we do absolutely offer it for sale, so Red Wing has 9 sculptures, and they've sold 5 of them. Like I said, it's a well-to-do little town, but, and the first few years generally is when people are more apt to buy sculptures. You know, the businesses or people who want to buy are gonna do that the first few years.
Other questions? Or we'll certainly take a motion in a second. All right, Phil, I saw your hand first, and then I saw Mike's. Any other discussion? So I'm telling you, we're excited. It's gonna be good. So, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And Julie, thank you for coming all the way from Eau Claire.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'll be coming down a lot.
Yes.
I brought a few brochures from years past, just so you can see samples.
Okay. Yeah.
And thank you for being patient while I got done with
Yes.
my actual job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, we can get back to, looks like we're on 9, which is new business. Items are for discussion, possible action. 9A is Water Utility Cross-Connection Control Program. Staff recommendation, motion to approve as presented. Lauren, that's you?
That is me.
Okay.
Yep. So it's just a night for cross connections. I'll take this opportunity to kind of explain really briefly what a cross connection actually is and why it's important. So just very briefly, the brochure that I had mentioned earlier is in the packet, but essentially it's when there is a hydraulic connection made between our public drinking water system and any source of contaminated water. And that connection can cause backflow into the system if a number of different situations occur. And that's really bad because it does contaminate our safe source of drinking water, and it can be problematic for health and safety. So we obviously don't want any of these in the village, and the way that we go ahead and make sure that we don't have them is a combination of routine inspections at set intervals, as well as just asking our residents to take a look at them. So because it's so important, the state actually does require us to have a comprehensive cross-connection control program on file and on record. It's referenced in our ordinances, and it's been in place for a number of years. So this that you're looking at now, this cross-connection control program, is it's not brand new. It's been around for a while, but it is updated. And the primary changes that have been made in this are for clarity, but also to better flesh out who is responsible for those inspections that I mentioned. You can imagine that it's relatively easy for our guys when they go in to do meter changeouts. They will look in residences and just make sure that they don't see any cross connections in kind of problem areas. But when you're looking at something like the high school, that could be a full day. And it's also something that, frankly, our staffers aren't necessarily trained to check everywhere. And so this program, as it now sits, would basically codify areas where we feel comfortable doing the inspections, areas where we feel that a licensed plumber or another inspector should be doing those inspections, how those inspection reports get to us and how often they have to get to us, where we file them, and then what we do if we don't get a response when we tell someone their inspection is due, if they do come back with cross connections or potential cross connections, essentially fleshing out all those details. So we finished the program. We do want to get it active as soon as we can, just because it's a really good thing to have on file and the state looks favorably on it. It will also be part of ordinance revisions that are coming up. So this doesn't contradict anything that's in the current ordinances, but future ordinance changes will just kind of reference it more clearly.
Okay. All right. Should we do a motion first and then, is that okay? Let's do a motion in a second, then we can do this. Okay, Amanda? All right, so second. All right, questions?
So, Lauren, you know, the plumber won't be my house anytime soon, and I don't know how quickly they're gonna come and check my meters. Isn't that outside anyway, or?
Your meter's actually in the basement.
Oh, and how often do they actually come and look at those?
So we switch out residential meters in particular on a 20-year basis.
Okay.
That's something the PSC regulates.
So, I'm pretty capable, but I'm not sure that I could go through your list on here and say, well, none of these are an issue in my house.
Sure, and that's a really good question. So if residents have any questions, they can always contact the village, and we have staff that can go out and take a look in these residential settings and are happy to do, you know, a quick check if people are concerned.
Great, that's all I was saying. Thank you.
All right, Amanda?
Yeah, so people who have had their water meter switched out fairly recently, is this a standard installation to have a backflow stoppage, you know, valve or whatever installed when you get a new meter? Is that?
So it's not standard with the meter. We check them with the meter. It is part of the plumbing code now in areas. So if you have a relatively recently constructed or renovated house, plumbers would have put these in areas that you would be concerned about typically.
But just a new meter, getting a new meter, they wouldn't have put one in?
They wouldn't put anything in. They would have checked your basement for these, because typically we run into these problems in the basement just because of elevation and head. But they would not have installed anything. They would have let you know if they found anything problematic.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how somebody would know if they had one of these installed, you know, like what it looks like, what to look for, or, you know, how do you...
Sure. And that's, I think going back to Phil's point, this is a case where if there are ever any doubts, please just give us a call and we're happy to run out and take a quick look and just make sure that the area you're worried about is good to go.
So I mean, I was under the impression that in the packet that part of it is that the village is going to be reaching out to do inspections of residential properties, or is this just commercial? I mean, explain to me the difference here and what it means.
So for residential, we reach out to do meter changeouts. When your meter comes up after 20 years, we send you a letter and we say, we need to get in your house. Please make it available. Tell us when we can come. And if we don't get a response to that letter, which quite frankly is very often, we then call and make a number of efforts to get people to talk to us. Now with those ordinance revisions I referenced earlier, we're going to be doing our very best to give us a little bit more enforcement ability, because for many reasons, this being one of them, it is very important that we get in and change these meters out. So the PSC does allow us to be a little bit more assertive than we have been in the past. We do that for commercial properties, really any properties. We are looking at meters. For residential, they're on that 20-year cycle. For bigger than our standard 3/4 inch residential meters, we actually have those on more frequent inspection cycles themselves. So our Sue Poole, our utility clerk, has a record of every 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch meters up in her kind of database, and she organizes. She works with our guys as well as with the owners of the properties that those meters are at to have our guys get in there on a more frequent than 20-year basis as required by the state. So we have eyes on all of these, and yes, it's an active reach out. Nobody has to call us and say, I think I'm due, because it's been however many years. We are poking these customers.
Okay, and when somebody goes out there to be looking at the water meter, they're looking at like the outdoor spigots for hoses and stuff.
Yep.
But if you have it on your water meter for your whole house, do you need to do like your kitchen faucet and your, like, you know, I was reading that thing, and it's like you can get these backflow meters for everything, but apparently the bathroom and kitchen stuff is low risk for that. So
if it's in an upstairs, I would say room. So that's kind of what I was trying to describe is if it's on the lower floor in the basement where our meters typically are, that is a higher risk just because the head differential is not as great. Gotcha. So if you get, you know, a faucet that somehow dips into a very large tube of water, it's a lot easier than if you're talking about something on the second floor of a building. Okay. So the way that this is set up, the way that we do things is we do check all those high risk areas, and then we give out these pamphlets at the time that the meters are inspected or changed out and say, here's what we want you to do under our cross connection control program. Here's exactly what you're looking for. Here's a little device, and they'll walk them through it and kind of tell them what they're looking for in those other rooms. And of course, if somebody is saying, I don't know if I have this on an upstairs area, or I don't know, I have one of those wands, those shower wands, and sometimes it gets down really low. Is this a problem? Then our guys can go up there and take a look.
Okay.
All right, Phil's got a follow-up.
I'm good.
Oh, you're good, okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, Derek.
I could just make a suggestion on
Yeah.
the do's and don'ts on here.
Yeah.
Just throwing up a picture of the dishwasher air gap, the vacuum breaker on the outside faucets, and what the air gap on a water softener looks like might go a long way to just kind of.
Sure.
Because a lot of people just from the houses I go in have no idea what that little knob next to their kitchen sink
Sure.
is until you explain it to them.
That's a really good suggestion. And we did put the brochure up on the website just because of the mailing issues. I'd love to get a better website up for this, and that's absolutely something that we can put up so that folks can look at it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, so we got a motion and a second. Ready? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, Lauren, I think this next one's yours too. 9B, Resolution 2243, preliminary resolution declaring intent to exercise special assessment powers related to the 2023 Janesville State and Washington Street reconstruction projects.
Yes, this one is also me. So
Okay.
this is related to our upcoming reconstruction project. So this is essentially just the first step in our assessment process. We are putting it together. The driver for this was Janesville Street. So as you know, that is a county and village co-project. And by getting this resolution on the books prior to signing the agreement between the county and the village for that project, we can have the county chip in for part of the sidewalk costs. So we would want to do this anyway because this is standard procedure, but we really wanted to kind of get that portion of the county's funding so that the village wasn't covering all of that. We're putting in State and Washington Street as well, even though the county is not involved, because we do intend to assess sidewalks for those projects, just as we will on Janesville Street, a 50-50 split between municipality and homeowner. So we wanted to kind of do it all together at once. This obviously is not the formal assessment for homeowners. This is kind of just us saying we intend to do this down the line. There will be plenty of notification, and of course, final assessments will be sent out to people. So this is kind of just our first stab at making this something that we're going to do.
So Lauren, I think the good thing about this is these folks, unlike Amanda and I, we had to pay to have our laterals
Yes.
privately done, and these are all done already for these folks. They should be.
Correct. Yes. So these are all areas that we have looked at. Now, if we do happen to find a lead or galvanized private lateral, it's something that could happen. We did our level best to make sure that we wouldn't.
Yeah.
But any public services, we will replace with these projects. So that will not be assessed to the homeowners. On State and Washington Street in particular, we are also going to be replacing sanitary sewer on those streets, and the laterals to the property line are also not going to be assessed to homeowners. So this is very exciting. Where I was before, a lot of this stuff was assessed back to property owners, and trust me, when you try to explain to somebody why it's great to assess them for curb and gutter, that's a very difficult conversation to have. So the village's assessment policy is actually one that I think is pretty phenomenal. I'm excited that we're going to be able to put this stuff in and kind of limit what we're asking of those homeowners.
And even the sidewalk, not full, 50/50, which is
50/50. Yep.
not always the case everywhere.
Correct. And if you happen to be on a corner lot, we will assess 50% of, I think, that shorter frontage too. So I know that that's always something that people on corner lots get really upset about, understandably so, and it's something that the village does take steps to limit.
Okay. Anybody? Yeah.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say, my neighbors have been after me for so long to fix their streets, so I'm so happy to see these particular streets, because they're really not in great condition. State Street is awful, so
Really
I'm
is.
really, really happy that we're getting to these.
We're
Mike?
also pretty excited.
Mike, comment?
Yeah, so is sidewalk replacement then part of the project?
Yes, it
Because
is.
that wasn't the case on North Main, right?
Correct. North Main was more of a spot replacement because the sidewalk was in better condition. On Janesville Street, we took a look at it and decided that the sidewalk by and large was not something that was worth keeping. Typically, you reach kind of that point of no return with things like sidewalk, and curb and gutter is another one that you can say, I want to try to save some of this stuff in good repair, but if you get to a certain point, it's cheaper just to start fresh. Janesville Street, in particular, as well as State and Washington, those are all 4-foot sidewalks, and the standard now is 5 foot. So by doing this, we'll be able to widen that sidewalk for all of those streets and make it much more accessible. So that's a benefit to going in and taking this out and putting in something new.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, I need a motion and a second.
Move to
All right, we'll
approve the
take-
resolution.
All right, Phil, and then I'm going to take Carleen on second. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we're getting there. 9C, Parks and Facilities, Reservation Proposed Fee Schedule, staff recommending approval, and here comes Leanne.
Hello. For those of you I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Leanne. I'm the Community Services Coordinator here. I live in the village, and I have been working under a lease since the end of September. Since my hiring, my primary responsibility has been establishing a park fee structure as well as policies on how to go about booking them as well. So since my hire, I've been doing ample research mostly on what the communities around us are doing, what's working for them, what's not working. As well as I've spoken with the park board a couple of times. They've provided me with some great input. And my research and their input is surmised in these 5 slides. So I won't bore you too much with the details, but just to give you a little overview, our park shelters are divided into different tiers, starting with Tier 1, which has every amenity you could think of, and it goes down to our Tier 3 park shelters, which are just your very basic shelters. And then our specialty shelter, because it's in a class all on its own, the Waterman Triangle Park Band Shell. These fees are to help offset the costs of the public works labor, maintenance, administrative oversight. So we really tried our best to keep the residential fee pretty minimal, as well as establishing free to use for community organizations. So those are organizations that can provide us with a tax exemption number, is how we're delineating at this point. And then when we get onto our athletic facilities, we just have a very general rental fee for our diamonds, fields, and courts. And we will contact the sports organizations directly, and we'll do what we've been doing in the past as far as getting something on the books for their big tournaments, big events. And then they will still be responsible for just paying a one-time lump sum at the beginning of the year, and that will cover all their games, their practices, whatnot. So the fees listed on this chart for the athletic facilities are just for private residents. If you go to payment policies, the payments are due in full upon booking. We do require a credit card or a check on hold in case there's any, broken glass, excessive damage. And then we are hoping that people will only book what they're going to use. So therefore we have half that fee is non-refundable. And I believe, am I forgetting anything, Lisa?
Maybe just to provide an update on ActiveNet, because I think
Yes.
we still had Rec Desk in the last budget presentation.
Correct. So upon, a very wise man by the name of Dave Jameson, he convinced me that switching a software reservation system may not be the best idea. We're already implementing a lot of new policies, new fees. So he thought, why add computer help desk to your list of responsibilities? So he also helped me see the potential in ActiveNet, because he was the first to point out it's really not being used to its potential. So seeing that it can help me with what it is I need to do was game changing.
Just to clarify, so ActiveNet's the system that the school district currently uses. The other system, Rec Desk, that Leanne had first proposed would, have had a charge with it every year. So at this point, we're willing to contribute to the school district. They're working on kind of just determining what their annual cost is. So when we kind of figure that out, what would be a reasonable amount to contribute, since we are sharing use of the system, we'll bring that back to you. But yeah, so we'll be able to stick with the current system. All the organizations that already have their account, password set up, everything can be one less new thing, like you said, to kind of put on everybody at the beginning of the year.
Okay. All right. Should we get a motion in a second, then we can have discussion if we need? Phil and Carleen, okay, motions. Any other discussion? Anything? Yeah. Derek?
Yeah, my question is actually for Lauren. The $20 for the 2 additional picnic tables, does that really cover the cost of Public Works crew bringing those out?
I only am answering for Lauren because Jeff was asked this at Park Board.
Yep.
So that is something that is literally the only fee that we currently have in place, is the $20 for 2 additional picnic tables. I'm not sure if the $20 covers it, but somebody asked about, well, what if I want 3 or what if I just want 1? According to Jeff, they are loaded in packs of 2. So,
he didn't seem to have an issue with the $20. He felt that was fair.
Okay.
But he was very adamant about, no, we load them in packs of 2.
You get 2 even numbers. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Who else? Amanda.
Yeah, so I'm really happy to see this too, because this was something that when I was on Park Board, I was pretty insistent upon, because I felt like we were losing money, by not charging anything, even for out of town people, like
Absolutely.
especially. So, I thank you for doing this. So I guess I was wondering, a lot of these list the full day price. Is the half day price half of that, or?
Yes.
There are half-day prices for these too, right? The tier 1 and tier 2 shelters.
So there are half-day, full-day pricing for the athletic facilities, but not for the shelters. That's simply just a matter of logistics. We're already kind of trying to figure out how we're going to enforce a half-day versus a full day on the athletic fields, but let alone to add the shelters into that, would that entail me going around to each and every one and make sure the party from the morning has vacated and they cleaned up after themselves before the party in the afternoon comes. And so just for simplification, the shelters are right now just at full day fees.
I think the other thing that was discussed at Park Board is, with the shelters is typically parties, there's more trash, so it would be an additional, typically Public Works coming to empty something in the middle of a Sunday. I think this is maybe a good place to start too, and we could find that if it does become something that people want to have multiple parties, you know, an afternoon, morning type thing, we could certainly amend it moving forward if it looks like that's a need. Maybe up the charge if that means,
Sure.
you know, overtime for Public Works to pop out on weekend to make sure everything is cleared out, since you don't want to start a party with full trash cans from the last group.
Right, yeah. And then what, I know Diamonds, Fields, and Courts is included. Are the tennis courts then included, and pickleball courts for JC that would be down the road? Or how
So
does-
the courts mentioned here are tennis courts. Pickleball courts, we've just done a little bit more research. We've spoken with Mike Barone and Jerome Klein. So pickleball will be pretty much the same, aside from the fact that the non-resident fee for reserving pickleball courts is $50 for a 2-hour time period, which sounds like quite a bit. I myself was shocked. However, when you look around at other communities, it's actually it's a tad lower than some communities where they charge, I think it's like a $20 per person rate. So $50 isn't bad.
Okay. And then I had a list of questions
That's
here, so
okay.
I'm reading off. Shelter electricity.
Yes.
Is that included for the shelters that have it? That's-
Correct.
Okay. And okay. It was answered, because if you had a community organization that wasn't tax exempt, you could just have an individual from the municipality, you know,
Correct.
like reserve it, and then it's a charge for that. Okay. Okay. No, that was it. I'm good.
All right, anybody else? All right, Mike.
Pleasure meeting you, Leanne.
Yes.
That I heard
You
when
as
I wasn't
well.
here. The lighting for baseball diamonds, is that included in this, or would there be an additional fee for lighting? I'm just picturing these renting Kaiser Park baseball diamonds and turning on a bank of lights for 4 hours, and I'm willing to bet that blows $5 away pretty quickly.
I would imagine so, and I believe, because lighting is in, sorry, I'll let you answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, so like right now, the tennis courts, for example, off Oak Street, there's just a switch and you go on, and I remember when I was living on that side of town, I'd often go and turn it off at night because the people not playing, it would still be on for 2 hours or something like that. So, yeah, I believe that would be included. At JC Park right now, there's no lighting on those new fields at this point. That would be a later phase addition to the project, so lighting for that wouldn't be a concern. But yeah, Kaiser Park Field, I think that is something that's included, but yeah, mostly kind of adult softball and some youth baseball and things that go on there. Small portion of the year.
And as part of this, I mean, I commend you, and I'm okay with whatever fees you come up with, but as part of this, over the next year, gain an understanding of how much we're spending on this as well, so that we
Correct.
can bring the fees more in line with actual
Absolutely.
costs. Good, thank you.
Right. And
All
Can
right.
I just say something for the record to
Sure.
clarify for anybody listening? These fees are for exclusive use of the shelter. If you want to take your kids to the park and have a picnic in the shelter and nobody else is there, you're welcome to do that. It's totally free.
Absolutely.
This is just a fee if you're having an event and you need to have it reserved just for your group. That's what these fees are for. so-
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's good clarification.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the park board too.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying.
All right, anybody else? All right, we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Leanne,
you.
very much.
Thank you.
We're on to D, resolution number 2244, adopting the 2023 Village of Oregon fee schedule. Recommendation is to approve as presented. Martin, Candy?
Yeah.
Candy's gonna take it, okay.
So the fee schedule in the packet, I am only going to ask for one amendment. We have learned that the park impact fee, right, the park impact fee, should be $23.46 from the $19.99. So I would like you to make approve the fee schedule with that amendment,
Okay,
so that I don't have to bring it back to you.
okay. All right.
Well,
Should we
what-
get a motion?
What page is that on?
Oh,
I can look. I just expected you all to know. Page 146 of the packet.
Thank you.
What was that amount again, Kenny?
2346.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to explain to you, that fee is increased every year based on the consumer price
Consumer
index.
price.
So that was just updated from a couple years with updated data.
And someone didn't have their request in when I needed it.
Okay.
We'll blame Jeff, he's not here.
Phil, you looking to make a motion with that amendment?
I'll make that motion to approve a resolution with the change of the park fee to 2,346.
Wait, no, I think it's,
Yep.
oh, it is. Okay, I thought it was 23.
Yeah.
Oh,
2,346.
Got it.
Yeah, that's what I,
Okay, you're right, Phil. All right, can we get a second, Amanda? All right, any other discussion? Oh, yep, Derek?
Just a question, I mean, with the park improvement fee, I noticed there's a fire impact fee that's just dashed out, or public works dashed out. Why is that?
They're impact fees that we used to have, but the fire impact fee was to pay for the new fire station, and that debt service is paid off now, so we don't need the fee anymore. And it was the same thing for public works, and the police department used to have one too.
Okay,
So those projects, the debt service has been paid off, so we don't need that anymore.
gotcha.
We could delete those columns.
or we could build another fire station.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about a new ladder? Yeah? No. All right, we got a motion and a second with the amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, moving along, 9E, future agenda items. This item gives board members the opportunity to place items and new business on a future agenda for discussion. Anybody got anything? Seen any hands? Okay. We'll keep moving. 10, report of village officers. Village administrator report, A, was in the packet. 10B, director of finance report on cash, investments, building permits, connection, and impact fees also was in the packet. Yeah, Amanda's got a question?
Well, not on that, actually, the administrator report.
Oh.
Can I just say congratulations
Yeah.
to Barton?
Yeah.
Thanks.
His
Yeah.
wife is
Yeah.
expecting. Okay, that was it.
All right, all right. Anybody on B? Okay, Lisa, you don't need to say anything?
I don't need to say anything.
Okay, perfect. We'll go to C, which is village department head, staff, consultant comments. Anybody? All right, see none. All right, 10D, village board comments. All right, Mike, this one's for you. I've been saving it. So this is related, to the DNR grant that Jeff and I wrote that we got for 2023. And I wanted to do something on my way out. So it's kind of, I've been labeling it as my last hurrah. And I wanted to raise more funds for trees. Because I've seen what they can do. I've seen them, I have new ones in my boulevard of my house. I've seen them on the boulevards and some streets, makes a big difference. So I'm happy to tell you that as of tonight, I've raised a little under 15,000. That'll be added to the DNR, so that'll give us $20,000 for new trees, and that's for terrace trees, boulevard trees, park trees, wherever we need them next year. So,
Nicely done.
last hurrah. So, anybody else got any comments?
Well, anything after that just
Well-
pales in comparison.
Hope everybody has a happy and healthy holiday.
Yes,
Yeah.
and drive safe.
Yeah, hope
Yeah.
everyone's
Stay
tight.
home.
All right, so let's go, we're not quite done. 11, announcements and miscellaneous business. 11A, certificate of accreditation awarded by the Wisconsin Law Enforcement Accreditation Group for the Oregon Police Department. Chief, am my memory right? Not a lot of police departments are accredited.
No,
Okay.
and to be honest with you, ours would depend on staffing moving forward. But for now, I believe we are one of roughly 40 police agencies in the state of Wisconsin that are fully accredited through Wiley Aid. The program applies 242 standards, which includes 604 separate dimensions that incorporate the best practices. For us, what we had to do, I guess, to summarize it in layman's terms, they set these high standards, some supported by law, some just what they feel are best practice, and then not only does our policy have to reflect those standards, but then what we had to do, which was new this year versus when Chief Ewell was here, is we had to prove for 3 years, each year consecutively, that we've been able to show proof that we're doing exactly what our policy states. So this was about a year-long project for us to put all of this together. At the lead was Lieutenant Schaub. It was his first year as accreditation manager. And then the other major players were Rudy and myself. But then also what this assessment team comes in and does interviews with the union representative. They talked with Martin, and they talked with a few other staff members, did a few ride-alongs. So it's quite the experience to go through. And they only really brought one area of concern up. I plan on bringing that back to the village board. Eventually, it's just not a priority right now. And it's not technically a policy that is a standard. They just identified it as very abnormal for a law enforcement agency and had some recommendations. So again, I'll bring that at a later time. Just to give you an idea of some of the areas that these dimensions and standards cover is organization management, personnel services, recruitment and selection, accommodations, disciplinary procedures, management of resistance and aggression, operations, transport, processing, and temporary confinement of detainees, community relations, communications, records, evidence and property integrity, training, critical incidents, and victim witness assistance. So there was an assessment team of about 5. They got it done in 3 days. A majority were chiefs with agencies relatively our size or bigger. And I was pleased to see that some of what we're actually doing, they took back their departments.
Cool.
Originally, when we first started this, it was a lot of the evidence processing because obviously we changed things significantly. But this time they took actually quite a few things from different areas. So that's just a testament to what we've been able to accomplish in the last 3 years. So I just want to thank Lieutenant Schaub. He did a phenomenal job. It is a very stressful project to take on, but he did great. And it feels like it's going to be a while now before we have to go through it, but 2024. So.
Well, Chief, congratulations to you and the
Nicely
and the
done.
staff. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anybody else? Anything? Okay. All right. We're on the last item. Carlene, get ready. 10B, upcoming meetings and events. I think I noticed, just remember that the January meetings shifted a little bit. Yep.
Got 2
So
holidays in January
pay
now.
attention to that for your calendars. And Carlene, I'm leaving this for you. Number 12.
Wait a minute, before we do that, the DEI committee did not meet last week because we did not have a quorum. And
Okay.
so that's not on this, and it will be at the Methodist Church, first Thursday.
All right, I'm saving 12 for you.
Okay.
Move.
Oh, you're going to ask?
I'm
if there's-
asking you.
oh, yeah, I move that we adjourn.
All right. Can we get a second, Amanda? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, we're done.